It was no later than 3 a.m. when I heard Chris knocking at the door again. Stumbling out of my sheets, I fought the urge to lay back down and just let Chris figure it out. This was the 4th time he'd come to my house in the dead of night, and as my eyes searched for a light switch through my 2-ton eyelids, I remember deciding that this was the last time I'd be so willing to help him. If you make me waste one more second of my goddamn break after this, I muttered beneath my breath, I want to go just one night without thinking about my entry exam or your creepy family. Failing to find the switch, I gave up on lighting my way and made my way for the door at a crawl. The blue haze of our living room TV coated my path, pouring in around the end of the stairway. On turning the corner, I passed last year's Christmas tree, which was never taken down, a testament to my parents' home that they left in mild disarray. I found my dad asleep on the sofa. I didn't bother trying to wake him, an effort which would have been betrayed anyway by more knocking from the front door. In nights prior, I'd taken more care to be quiet. After the same routine 3, now 4 nights in a row, I threw open the lock, tossed the glass door aside, and cut right to the chase. Where is she? It seemed like Chris wanted to respond, but he noticed my expression and turned slightly, walking with me to his porch. She's getting better, I think, Chris noted carefully as we went up his front steps. She started laying down sooner. It shouldn't take too long this time, I swear. I need to sleep, Chris, I commented. This better be quick. Sitting upright on the porch in her pajamas, her eyes closed as usual, was Chris's younger sister. She was sleepwalking again. At the very least, Chris managed to keep her propped up in a chair long enough to come get me. Remind me why you can't take care of her yourself? I mean, I don't need you here. Once again, my deadpan eye cut him off, and he continued. Look, it's really weirding me out, okay? I told you, she's never done this before. I don't want to be alone with her like this. She really just started that earlier this week. Yeah, it's freaking me out. Just take her to a doctor or something. My dad doesn't want to go through the hassle of an appointment just for a sleepwalking spell. Christ. What? Nothing, just... The 17-year-old girl was still upright, seemingly unconscious, and her brother was waiting anxiously for my decision. Just bring her inside. Bradley, you're my hero. Thanks, man. Without another word, we helped Sleeping Beauty to her feet and corralled her towards my house. Barely a few dozen feet separated our two homes, a walking distance that made us ideal childhood friends. The walk felt less like a friendship gap and more like a favor line these days. Within a minute or two, we'd already gotten the girl through my front door. With practice, we were practically expert sleepwalker shepherds. As if the ominous closed-eye shamble wasn't unsettling enough, the static wash of the local news channel added an eerie glow to her shape. We sat her down on a kitchen stool with the weather forecast as provided ambiance. Are you sure we should still wake her up? Chris asked. His eyes were still locked in a nervous gaze. I don't know if that's healthy. I read something about that online. I think something about waking them up being bad. WebMD isn't going to be much help, I pointed out. It's just going to give you random symptoms to worry about. We might as well try something other than sitting and watching her all night. Besides, she's in my house. We'll try my solution. Yeah, sorry about bringing her over here, by the way. I didn't want to wake my parents. I glanced at my dad, still unconscious on the couch. Ah, your parents. Right. Okay, I'm gonna try to get her up. I don't think talking to her will work though. See if you can find something of use. Like what? I don't know. Just something to try if I can't get her awake. Abandoning Chris to his useless wake-up plan for the moment, I left him with his sister and went upstairs. I didn't bother checking any bedrooms and went straight to the bathroom. Water might work, I considered, feeling devious. I'd need a cup or something though. There was nothing in the bathroom, and the hall closet was equally fruitless, save a whistle, which I thought might work. I collected the whistle and returned downstairs. At first glance, it seemed Chris and our patient were just as I left them. As I got closer, I found that Chris's nervous watch had morphed into startled alarm. "Bradley," he called. "Hmm? What?" "Her eyes are open." I assumed he was trying to tell me his efforts had not been in vain, till I walked around to see her face. The girl was just sitting there, staring, unblinking, not moving. Was she still asleep? I began. "Did you wake her up?" "I don't know," Chris answered. I looked away and several minutes passed. Naturally confused and, for some unexplainable reason, afraid to act, we stood quietly and watched, waiting for something to happen. I don't know what we were expecting, but it never came. Then we tried clapping. We tried shaking her. We even tried the whistle. Nothing worked. For what felt like a lifetime, she simply sat there, watching the window. About 2 days had passed when Chris's sister went missing. The police came, but they couldn't find anything. No evidence, no story, no sign of the teenager. Chris didn't leave his house for almost a week. He locked himself in his room and only left for food or anything he needed. I could see him at his window, thinking, probably hoping that somehow, in some way, his sister would be found. But she never was. She never was until the night before the storm hit us. "I don't trust anyone in here, man," Chris attempted, through wavering cracks in his voice and the cell phone static. He was practically on the verge of a breakdown. "Something's not right. Something's going on." "Chris, you're hysterical," I interrupted. If it weren't for what had happened with his sister, I'd have assumed he was simply overreacting. "Shouldn't you be worried about your sister? You know where the rest of your family is. They should be the least of your concerns." "Dude, I'm telling you, there is something wrong with them. No one in the family has been sleepwalking before." An unseen weight seemed to sink in my stomach. I sat up in my bed, making out the shape of Chris's house in the dark. His light was on, the only light in his house. "Wasn't your sister the one sleepwalking?" I dared to ask. "She was. She isn't anymore. Now they're all doing it." I didn't understand. I needed someone to say something, anything, to explain away what was happening. Maybe you just never noticed it before. Or it could be normal. Maybe we haven't seen this ourselves. Once that word entered my mind, I kept repeating, "Normal, normal, normal." "There's someone at my door." Chris's voice shot through the line, throwing me for my days. "What?" "There's someone at the door. I just heard knocking." Peeking across the street, I could see Chris facing me through the window. His eyes were pleading for me to do something. "Chris." "Yeah." "When's the last time you talked to someone in your family?" "I don't remember. 3 days? I think it's been 3 days since..." This time, I heard the knocking as Chris stopped in his tracks and turned to face what I assumed was his doorway. Several minutes trudged by, and Chris remained fixed silently in an ominous stare. Through the phone, I could make out more knocking, ringing under his quickening gasps. His eyes were locked on something. Chris? Chris. No response. Chris! Bradley. What is it? My door is open. Before I could respond, my mind was already replaying the sight of his sister upright in her chair, eyes open, yet unable to wake, as though she were dead. Someone's just standing there, knocking on the door. It's open, Bradley. His words kept my sights glued to his window. I can't tell who it is. Then the lights went out. Chris! The call ended. I waited a few minutes, then an hour, then a few hours. No matter how hard I looked at his house, or how many times I tried to call him, I couldn't make out Chris's shape or get a hold of him. My phone history recorded my paranoia. 9 outgoing calls, 12 unread text messages. What the hell happened? I don't remember what I was feeling, or if I was even scared. I just needed to know what was going on. Eventually, my exhaustion caught up with me. I tried to stay awake, to see what came next, but before I knew it, I drifted off to sleep. How long I was out for was beyond me. All I know is that it was still dark out when my sister heard something shatter. By the time I'd woken up, the police were already gone. Apparently, I'd slept through most of the morning. When my sibling Carly got me out of bed, my phone read 2:38 p.m. I don't believe for a second you've been in this bed all day. What with all that's happened? She berated. Where have you been, Bradley? Clueless, I rubbed at my eyes to wear off the sleep, trying to make out the fuzzy shape of my older sister. I attempted a response. I don't know. Apparently, she didn't like that answer. You need to go to the kitchen right now. Something happened last night, and there's a detective who wants to speak with you. Dad does too. A detective? Before I got confirmation, Carly left the room. On entering the kitchen, however, I found my dad and an investigator waiting for me just as she'd said. Over the next hour or so, I was made aware of what was, surprisingly, the strangest thing that had happened among recent events. Carly had been awakened the night before by a series of startling events. A thunderous boom, a flash of light, and then a crash. On checking the commotion, she found that one of our downstairs windows had been smashed open. Not long after, someone else had called the police. It seemed the body of a young girl had been found. I immediately understood who it was. What I didn't understand, though, was why Chris's sister was found right by our house, next to the broken window. According to the investigator, the incident was being identified as a shooting. I told the man everything I knew about the girl. Her family, the sleepwalking, the disappearance. He didn't seem interested in the sleepwalking part. I knew nothing about the body, but if it's possible to know less than nothing, I sure did when he asked if I knew where it went. At some point before the police arrived, the body had, from what this report the investigator read noted, disappeared without a trace. My dad and sister left us alone while they went to examine the broken window. The man asked if I knew what happened to the window, and, like Carly, didn't really appreciate "I don't know" as a response. At least I didn't. At least I think he didn't. I couldn't really tell. I was still trying to rub sleep out of my eyes. Eventually, it became clear he couldn't get anything out of me. I didn't have anything to give, after all. But before the detective could make his exit, I got in a question of my own. Have you asked Chris about any of this? The man turned, a puzzled gleam in his gaze. Who's Chris? He questioned. Is he related to the girl? Yeah, he's the girl's brother. The puzzle in his eye was clearly missing some pieces, and he seemed lost. They all live at the house right across the street. We knocked at the door, son. No one was home. If they're out, we'll check with them when they return. With that, the detective thanked my family for their time and went on his way. My dad left the house too, muttering something about not missing work. Though I felt alone, I could still sense Carly's presence behind me. The two of us stuck in place by an awkward static. Finally, she broke the silence. Were you still asking your friends to come see you today? It took me a moment to remember. I'd asked a few old friends to come by, friends I hadn't seen since I started college. One of them, of course, had been Chris. Some part of me got a feeling he might not show up that afternoon. I'm still thinking about it, yes, I answered. Well, tell them to be careful driving. A storm's coming in, and they're saying the roads might flood. If they drop by, they might have to stay for a while. She started to leave the room, but stopped to complete her thought. I'm not going to be home tonight. I have to head to the airport. Dad should be home in the morning.